Hello and welcome to another Royal Reviewer live pop-up chat. And as always, I always say this at the start of these chats, it is live, so I will be answering as many viewer comments and questions as I possibly can. But first of all, because it being a live chat, I need to find the live chat room. Let's just adjust the camera so you can see me perfectly. Right, I'm sure people will be dropping in from time to time. If, however, you are watching on catch up after the live chat, then if you have a comment or a question, please leave it in the comments section below. Alternatively, you can follow the live chat on whichever side of the screen it shows up for you. So, today's topic of conversation, I want to be fairly specific and very much focused on Beatrice, Eugenie, and the York family in general. So Sarah, Andrew, that kind of thing. So I will be taking questions, any questions you've got about the York family, their role within the royal family, Prince Andrew, Sarah Ferguson, Princess Beatrice, Princess Eugenie. Whatever question you may have about any of those, do let me know and I will try to answer to the best of my ability. Also, the main thrust of this conversation is what should the future be in terms of being a full-time working royal for Beatrice and Eugenie? I actually saw a programme, a documentary a few days ago here in the UK. I don't know if it's available or not elsewhere, but anyway, it was kind of calling Princess Beatrice and Eugenie the Pampered Princesses. So I've used that word in the title because I kind of disagree with the whole concept of these kind of pampered princesses. And actually the documentary went into a whole load of reasons as to why, why they may not actually be the pampered princesses that people might think or have this perception that they are. So we'll kind of talk about all of that. So if you have watched the documentary and you want me to expand on anything you saw in it, do let me know as well. So I can see people dropping in. Mason, hello, I am fine. How are you? Lady Buckingham, Anna, Elise, Christine, Kizzy, Mariana, Bethan. Hello to everyone. One Karen as well. Hello and welcome. And if you're a channel member or a patron, thank you so much for being one of those as well. Okay, so let's start off with this documentary which I watched a few nights ago. It was really good. It was quite a long documentary and it kind of detailed almost through Beatrice and Eugenie's eyes, sort of the relationship that their parents had with the media and all the things that kind of went wrong within their parents' marriage, and then lots of the different kind of missteps that both Andrew and Sarah have made since kind of splitting up and separate. Well, actually, almost whilst they were married and together as well. So it kind of followed them, and it showed that yes, they did have a very lavish lifestyle. They had apparently a whole room full of dolls, and they had all the best clothes. They went skiing to Verbier and all the rest of it. But underneath it all, it actually said that pretty much everyone who meets Beatrice and Eugenie never really has a bad word to say about them. They have actually been very well brought up. And the documentary kind of rather cruelly, I think, to Sarah said, well, at least she got something right. And that is the raising of the daughters, because they are really lovely girls. Whenever I've seen them at an engagement, whenever I've been, reporting and kind of retelling one of the engagements, every tweet, every comment that I read about them from people that have actually been there, it's always really positive. And they both had lots of long, string of kind of long-term relationships, and they've had their own ups and downs and hardships as well. And of course, their lives, their younger lives, were all played out on the world stage in front of the whole public. Right, I can see some comments coming in. Mason says, is Sarah Ferguson still a royal? No, she's not. Technically speaking, you are only royal if you have a HRH. You can still be a member of the royal family, but not technically a royal. It's the HRH that actually designates you as royal. So Prince William and Prince Harry have a HRH. They are royal. Even if Prince Harry is not a working royal anymore, he's still royal. Their cousins, Zara and Peter Phillips, do not have HRHs. They are not royal. They are private individuals, but they are still a member of the royal family, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making any sense. So when Sarah divorced, she became Sarah, Duchess of York. She is not the Duchess of York, and she is not HRH. That was sacrificed at divorce, the same way as it was with Diana. Lots of conflicting kind of thoughts on who was behind the instigation of the removal of the titles. Personally, I think it was more to do with the Queen Mother rather than Charles or the Queen, or even Philip for that matter. I think it was mostly to do with the Queen Mother, who was very much still alive at the time and still had that kind of matriarchal role. And of course, you know, she still had lots of the old sensibilities, the sort that still existed at the time when Edward VIII married Wallis Simpson. Well, he wasn't Edward VIII at the time, but when Edward, the Duke of Windsor, married Wallis Simpson, those kind of sensibilities were still with the Queen Mother at the time of these divorces of Diana and Sarah. So I think very, very much that it was the Queen Mother behind it. But although some people will disagree and say Charles or the Queen, but my bet is more commonly placed, I think, on the Queen Mother. Mason says, do I remember you? I think I remember the name, and did you have a different name? I don't know. Damon Christopher Johnson says, Sarah, Duchess of York, is an ex-HRH, so technically she's no longer royalty. Yes, exactly. But by virtue of being the mother of blood princesses, she is still, you know, on the sidelines, on the fringes of royalty. She is still invited to some of the big occasions, although she didn't go. She wasn't invited to William and Catherine's wedding, but she does go to, you know, some of the private occasions. She's been staying at Christmas, for example, many Christmases over the years at Sandringham with the royal family, but not in the main house. She's been staying on, you know, a cottage on the estate. So she's still very much a member of the family, just not, she's not royal, which I think was the answer to that question. El Hodge says, I think they came through very well. Their mother probably spoiled them. She likes to spend money. Yeah, I mean, one of Sarah's criticisms is that she can be quite frivolous. I mean, it's her personality. It's her nature. She's very vivacious. She's very, you know, outgoing. She's, you know, I don't think she necessarily gives a lot of stock to how she spends money. However, she knows that she needs money, which is why partially I think Andrew and Sarah haven't remarried, is because that she has this freedom that she wouldn't have as a HRH, in that she can go out and make her money because she is a private individual. Weight Watchers, Budgie the Little Helicopter, you know, have been some of her major triumphs. She's now obviously selling, you know, scents and all that kind of things. Almost trying to build a brand. She's now doing YouTube. She has her own YouTube channel, story time, Fergie and Friends, where she reads stories and that kind of thing. So, you know, she's keeping herself busy. But Andrew and Sarah very, very much are kind of the happiest, most unmarried couple, divorced couple, whatever you want to call it, that there probably is going. Did they ever truly separate? One will never know. Are they together? I mean, Fergie, in recent interviews and things over the past couple of years, has kind of hinted that they are kind of still together. You know, another question I'm sure that will come up is, do I think that they will remarry at any point? And I think the simple thing is that there could be some barriers to marrying at the moment. One is said to be Prince Philip, although Prince Philip did share, you know, a space with Sarah. obviously for the photos of Eugenie's wedding. Obviously we only got a couple of photos of Beatrice's wedding, but obviously Andrew was there, Sarah was there. So yeah, let me just go up and see what people are saying. Let's have a little peek. Lyle says, is HRH by birth and can it be removed like Archie? Well, Archie's wasn't removed. It's kind of weird. So yeah, you are either entitled to it or you're not. However, if you are entitled to it, your parents, because you are a minor, can make that decision as to whether or not you are styled as such. So, in for example, Prince Edward and Sophie, the Countess of Wessex's, the Earl and Countess of Wessex's children, obviously it's Lady Louise Windsor and James Viscount Severn, they decided not to style them as HRH, even though they are entitled to do so. And of course, when they're 18, they can choose to take up those styles if they want to. With Archie, it was a little bit different. He could have had a courtesy title, the Earl of Dumbarton. However, he is not necessarily entitled to HRH at the moment because he is not the grandson of a reigning monarch. He's a great-grandson of a reigning monarch. So, as soon as Charles becomes king, that is the very moment when Archie is entitled by birth to have a HRH. However, it's not expected that Harry and Meghan will take up that offer. So, they are likely to make that decision on behalf of Archie until he's 18, when he can opt to make that decision himself. They probably will not style him as HRH and adopt it. But technically by birth, he will have the right to be a HRH when Charles is king. Janet says they do work. Yes, indeed they do. Beatrice and Eugenie both work, and they have held down full-time jobs. They did get a lot of criticism. Well, actually, I think it was Beatrice who got a lot of criticism for being for taking lots of holidays while still working. However, they are not full-time working royals at the moment. They are not funded necessarily directly by the state. They do not have state protection officers. That was actually removed a good few years ago now. Previously, they did have it, but it was taken away. There was lots of talk about Charles thinking that it was too expensive and all the rest of it. But that was, of course, at a time when the royal family was expanding. You still had the Queen's cousins as working members of the royal family. You still had the Queen herself. You still had, at the time, the Duke of Edinburgh. You still had, obviously, Charles and Camilla, the Queen still in action. We had William and Catherine. We had Harry and Meghan as well. So there were lots of working, obviously the Queen's children as well. So there was lots of working royals. Now is a little bit of a different situation because with the whole Prince Andrew situation, which is still unresolved. I was hoping that this year things would, come to a head and be resolved, whichever way they were going to be resolved. But because of Corona and, putting things on a back burner and whatever, that hasn't happened. Will it happen next year? Who knows? But all we know at the moment is just factual information of what has happened. There has been allegations made against him and, of course, his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, but no formal charge has been made against him, which has put Andrew in a very kind of difficult situation because of all the press attention on the situation made all the charities and patronages not want to have any associations with him. So, without a charge, he has lost pretty much his entire royal role. People are speculating, will he ever be able to come back from this, even if there doesn't come a charge in the future? However, if a charge does come, if the other side does have enough evidence to back up the allegations, legally speaking, and there is a charge against Andrew, then it will come to a head. And I do believe that kind of the press being very tentative around only kind of presenting the facts and kind of saying what's happened, which is kind of like what I do as well on this channel, because you can't kind of go accusing someone of doing something or being a particular type of person if there is no evidence to back it up or no charge. I do believe that as soon as there is a charge, all gloves will be off, and I think the press will completely go full bore at Andrew. I really do. But again, we await there to be something from the other side. And of course, that has had brought a lot of grief to the York family. It also, hindered Princess Beatrice's wedding. It was never going to be as big an occasion as Princess Eugenie's. I also think that Princess Beatrice wanted a smaller scale wedding. But then, with the whole Prince Andrew scandal ongoing and also COVID, that kind of put back poor Princess Beatrice and her wedding. She's had so many setbacks with the wedding. She had to wait, obviously, because Harry and Meghan got married. They were more senior royals, so they got the wedding first. Then no, that was Eugenie. Then Eugenie had the wedding after. And then Beatrice, further down the line, rejected after a 10-year relationship, and then finally found love with, long-term friend, or rather family friend, Edoardo Mapelli-Mozzi. She finally got her chance to have her wedding, and she made it. She made it her own. She wore that spectacular, gown that was previously worn by the Queen, designed by the famous Norman Hartnell. She wore Granny's tiara, the fringe tiara. She looked amazing. She had a fabulous day, but still there was no visuals of Andrew on the day. They made it very, very clear that it was just a picture of the happy couple on their own, and of course with the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. So yeah, with regards to the Prince Andrew situation, I hope it comes to a conclusion at some point. Which way it will go, we do not know. But as royal watchers, it's kind of my job, I suppose, to just look at the facts, look what's happening, and retell that, and not put any kind of personal opinion into it, which is what I think a lot of other YouTube channels, social media outlets are doing at the moment. They are very, very much pushing out their own opinions to side with their audience. I don't do that. I don't do that on any of my channels. I'm very, very conscious that that is not what I do. But I understand that everybody is going to have their own personal opinions on the situation. But at the moment, we have to go, because it's a legal matter, we have to go by, what are the facts at the moment. And I think that is the best way to go about it until we know a little bit more, I suppose. Right, I'm going to go down. Oh, by the way, hello to everyone who is saying hello as well. James Med4, hello, says, you are always fair and balanced. Thank you so much. And Anna says, yes, one of the things I like best about you is that you stay with the facts and only refreshing. Yes, I try to only literally stick to the facts, because that is all we can go on. Mason says, if I married a member of the British royal family, would I have to convert to the Church of England? Well, it used to be this whole thing of, if you are a Catholic, then, you married... No, if you are a member of the royal family and you married a Catholic, then you would not be able to... You'd lose your place in the line of succession. Not necessarily your title or style, but you would lose your place in line. So no, you would not have to convert to the Church of England. You could stay whatever faith you are. James Medford says, the Queen was so pleased with Beatrice wearing her gown. I think it was flattering, and I think it also shows the closeness between the Yorks and the York princesses and the Queen. They live at Royal Lodge in Windsor, so they spent many weekends, happy weekends, with the Queen. They really have kind of grown up with the Queen as their grandmother, as a grandmother, and not just Queen. In the documentary, Sarah... there was a comment that Sarah had said to her daughters that, there are 3 sets of rules of manners. There's the rules and manners that you use when you're at home, then when you're in public, and then when you're with the Queen. And you most definitely mind your P's and Q's. Prime Minister Andrew Carter says, you can sleep well tonight, and I will see you again very soon. Have a good evening, whatever it is you are doing. Again, lots of people having and saying their opinions on the whole Prince Andrew situation. But yeah, Lyle, no, the issue is still not resolved. It is ongoing. Anna says, the girls have always seemed lovely, and I suspect Sarah and Andrew will make wonderful grandparents. I think so too. They're certainly very much a family unit. Andrew will make wonderful grandparents just from the looks on their faces when they were with their daughters, Pure Love and Pride. Yes, they are a very close-knit family. Bev says, I wish that Louise and James were HRH. I think, well, pretty much what the Countess of Wessex, Sophie, has said in the past is that she's bringing them up with the notion that they have got to work. However, if when they get to 18, they want to adopt their titles, she's not going to stand in the way. That is their birthright. Although, like Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, it doesn't necessarily mean that they will get a royal role. So, they are going to have to think about things very carefully. Because Beatrice and Eugenie, one of the things that they have had up until now is almost like the HRH putting them between a rock and a hard place. They're not a working member of the royal family, but they're still very much titled. So they still have the intense scrutiny that comes with being a HRH and almost a representative of the royal family, which in turn is a representative of the country. You know, that's what a lot of people don't get, is that the royal family are a physical embodiment of the state, or rather the monarchies. But then you have those that are supporting the monarch, those in the family just below, and you know, they also are almost like a physical embodiment of the country, which is why they attract so much scrutiny and attention, and why they are held to such high standards, because we take a lot of pride in our royals. It's almost like taking pride in them is like taking pride in your country, because they are the physical embodiment of it. So yes, it's almost like Beatrice and Eugenie have been in, well, they are in a bit of a rock and a hard place. They're kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't. Scrutiny here, scrutiny there. But there was one thing I really wanted to talk about, and that is what we don't see very often, is that the girls are very hardworking. Now, I'm just checking. Now, this list is actually from 2017, so there's probably even more added to. So, I'm going to read just some of the charities of Princess Eugenie and Beatrice. So, these are charities that you may not know that Princess Eugenie has an association with. We have Street Children UK. We have the Royal National Orthopaedic Hospital. Elephant Family. By the way, most of these were from 2018, 2019, 2016. The Coronet Theatre since 2016. The European School of Osteopathy since 2017. The Water Charity. The Anti-Slavery Collective. Tate's Youth Patrons, Project Zero, New Museum, Big Cat Sanctuary, and the Anti-Slavery International. Let me try Princess Beatrice, Street Children UK, the Big Change Charitable Trust, the York Musical Society, Edinburgh's Children's Hospital Charity, Broomwood African Education Foundation, Forget Me Not Children's Hospice, Helen Arkle Dyslexia Centre, the York Theatre, the Berkshire Community Foundation, the English National Ballet School, Teenage Cancer Trust, Oscars Book Prize, Charity Water, Outward Bound Trust, and the Frank Family Foundation. Between them, they have over 20 charities, and they do not get the recognition that they deserve for being independent patrons of those charities. They do not receive any money, they do not receive any state funding to be a patron of those charities. They do it in their spare time. They do it out of their own money. They raise money just because they are interested in it. They are almost always, they have been pretty much doing a role in that capacity. But without that little HRH, without that sparkle, it's never going to be elevated to that layer that level of attention that you get when you become a full-time working royal. Which is why I think, with Prince Andrew out of action for the foreseeable future, will he ever be back in action? One never knows. With Harry and Meghan opting to step back from full-time working life and doing their own thing in LA, there is a gap. Once the Queen is no longer with us, once her cousins are no longer doing full-time working duties, that only leaves Prince Charles and Camilla, who will have their own kind of individual role as monarch and queen consort. That only then leaves any surviving siblings of Charles, and of course William and Catherine, and their children are still young, so it will be probably at least another 25 years until, you know, George is ready to kind of take on royal duties and royal life. Maybe a little bit sooner, it depends, but between 20 and 25 years. So there is going to be a gap, and I actually think, and I've said this ever since I've been doing my channel, I've been doing it 5 years, and I've been sat here talking about the same thing for 5 years, and I've been saying, you know, eventually, one day, Beatrice and Eugenie's time will come. And I think the time is nigh. I think that Beatrice and Eugenie are already blood princesses. They are already doing the charity work. It wouldn't take much just to embrace them to be a full-time working royals. They are well respected in the charitable sectors in which they already operate. The British public seem to like them, even though, you know, sometimes they may criticise or laugh at their fashion choices. Who can forget the pretzel hat at the wedding and all the different comparisons and memes that it spawned? But under it all, underneath everything, they are really lovely, well brought up, well mannered girls who are giving a dedication and service to the country while still working, while still holding down full-time jobs, while still enduring the intense press scrutiny that the British press heap on the royals, and the media attention and spotlight and relationships and now families with Eugenie being pregnant. So I think they deserve a break. And I actually think that they deserve to be taken out of this rock and a hard place and are actually given a proper royal role with all the trappings that entails. Princess Eugenie lives at Ivy Cottage at Kensington Palace. She pays full market rent. I actually watched a programme where someone said that she had it as a freebie. And this is, you know, someone that was on some kind of documentary. That is not true. Princess Eugenie pays full market rent for Ivy Cottage. Princess Beatrice also pays rent at St James's Palace. They used to share an apartment. When Princess Eugenie moved out, Beatrice took that on. And of course, now that they're married, they may be looking for their own home, but they have paid full market rent for their properties. And I just think it's about time that they actually became full-time working royals. Right, let me see what people are saying. Stephanie D. Kelly says, did either of the princesses receive an allowance from their father before their marriages? We will never know that. That would have existed as a personal arrangement. It would have existed. Any allowance would not have been funded directly from the state. It would have come, if one does exist, it would have come from Prince Andrew's own private funds. And Prince Andrew is wealthy in his own right because of inheritance. He would have inherited money from the Queen Mother's legacy as well. So no, in terms of public funding, no. In terms of private funding, personal arrangements may or may not have been made. Stephanie D. Kelly says, what scrutiny will their spouses come under if they start receiving taxpayer funds? Right, pretty much the same. The best example we have of this is Princess Anne. Princess Anne is a blood princess, just like the York girls, and has a HRH. She's a full-time working royal. She has had 2 husbands who are not aristocratic, do not have titles, and do not have HRHs. Princess Anne's spouses have been able to work in their own capacity without any kind of scrutiny or attention. However, it is important to note that their spouses have not done anything particularly high profile. It's always been kind of quite low key, under the radar, never giving interviews, never really doing, never really, putting their head above the parapet, so to speak. It's always been low key, kind of business things rather than anything, entertainment, showbiz, putting yourself out there on the world stage. It is very, very much low key. And it seems like Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie's husbands are both of that mould. They both have their independent jobs. They're both wealthy. Edoardo Mapelli-Mozzi comes from a very rich family. So does Jack Brooksbank. He's obviously in tequila and all the rest of it. So it's very, very much low key. But in terms of scrutiny, I wouldn't have thought that they would attract any scrutiny unless they did something that was kind of demanding and screaming for attention. Bev Leck says, Lady Louise will turn 17 in a few weeks on November the 8th. I agree that Eugenie and Beatrice should begin easing into the working royals roles. I think when you take into account that the Queen's cousins are getting older, and if you took them out of the equation, and then you took the Queen out of the equation, there would be a lot of charities and patronages that wouldn't have a royal patron. And regardless or not of whether royals necessarily bring in money for charities and organisations are still falling over each other to offer royal patronages, because it does offer that special brand of magic that celebrities and whatever just don't bring. It is always really good to have a royal patron, and the way that the royals are working now is more through kind of foundations. Prince Charles kind of started it all off with the Prince's Trust. That has raised hundreds of millions of pounds, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds over its lifetime for disadvantaged youth in the community. So royals do raise money, they do raise attention. They raise attention when it comes to, for example, mental health. They haven't necessarily pumped loads of money into mental health charities, but they do shine a light. People are now talking about it, whereas before they were not. They do have an effect on tourism. I think there was one study that showed that after Harry and Meghan went to Dubbo, for example, in Australia, there was a huge increase felt afterwards in terms of people visiting. So, royals do make a big impact. And I think the less royals we have that are working royals, the less opportunities other patronages and charities and places of interest or concepts like mental health or issues like mental health are going to lose out. So I do think that it's very important that we embrace the blood princesses that are very hardworking that we do actually have. Grant Nichols says, excellent and interesting question posed by Damon. I haven't seen it, but regarding Prince Michael of Kent and why not made a Knight of the Garter, is this known? There are limited places, and usually only an appointment is made when somebody is no longer there to fill that gap. I imagine that one of the reasons why he hasn't been made a Knight of the Garter is just simply because there has always been somebody of higher ranking precedence than he to have that role. The Queen will have appointed members of her own direct lineage below her first and foremost. So it's a real shame that he's not. By this point in life, would he really necessarily be bothered? One probably wouldn't really think he would be. Right, I'm going to skip down all the way to the bottom. JR Midwell says, love you, honest and right on. Thank you so much. Let's have a look. Lauren says, do we think we will have the full baby parade with the new baby? I mean, Eugenie did have the full royal wedding. I don't think... I don't know. I mean, it really does depend on how, as an individual, she feels about the whole baby parade thing, or whether or not we'll see more of a photo released, maybe a few days later, that kind of thing. But as not a full-time working of the royal family, there will be interest in Princess Eugenie and what do we call it? Baby Brooksbank. We'll call it Baby Brooksbank. So Baby Brooksbank won't have any titles, by the way. But no, I think there will be a lot of interest, whether or not she decides that she wants to do Baby Parade, or whether a few days later she might want to do release a photo, or maybe do a little television interview from one of the palaces. That is entirely up to her. Lisa says, I would find the princesses and their husbands a wonderful addition to serving the people of Britain. And it's still that kind of sexist, antiquated thing where if you are a female marrying into the family and your husband is a senior working royal, you also take on that rank, style and status, and you are almost expected to, well, you are expected to be a working royal. Whereas if it's a male, it doesn't work the same way around. So yes, it is, you know, probably unfair or, you know, biased towards, you know, towards certain sides, but that's the way it works at the moment. Although there is talk, you know, obviously things were changed when Prince George, well, just before Prince George was born. If Charlotte had been born first, she would have not been superseded by any successive brothers. So she would have been queen if she'd have been born first. But you know, things happen in the royal family slowly. Modernity always happens. The royal family kind of tend to keep up at some point, but they don't necessarily always kind of go ahead of modernity. They always kind of keep up. It's a big old institution to kind of turn around. Yes, I am looking forward to the crown too. Oh, by the way, if you've not noticed, because my hair is particularly massive today, I am wearing the York family tiara. Some people were asking, where have all the tiaras gone? Well, they're here. Look, it's the York family tiara, the one that Sarah wears. And actually, none of the girls opted to wear this tiara, did they, at their wedding days? I think a lot of people thought they might, but they didn't. I'm trying to get my tiara on properly. There we go. Can we see it? There we go. Beautiful tiara today. But yes, I am very much looking forward to this series of Netflix, The Crown. Of course, we get to see Diana, that amazing dress. I got goosebumps when I saw the trailer. It was really, really amazing. I loved it. Canetta says Princess Anne is very hard-working royal. Yes, she is. Lots of people saying they would like to see more of Beatrice and Eugenie. Damon says, I don't see Beatrice and Eugenie becoming working royals until Prince William ascends to the throne. I think there's going to be a bit of a void soon. Sooner rather than later. I agree with you, had we not had the Prince Andrew situation, if we hadn't have had Harry and Meghan stepping back, I would probably have agreed with you in that sense. But I think the fact that there are less working royals has kind of heightened everything and really kind of brought things forward a bit for the girls. Bev says, great reporting. These chats have been like Talk of the Crown, which I have missed. Me too. It's been almost a year since I've done an official Talk of the Crown. And if you didn't know, I used to do a full-time, a weekly chat show every single week. Lisa says, because I just joined, are you saying the husbands would not also serve? Yes, in an official capacity. Of course they would serve through supporting their wives. I mean, I'm sure Sir Timothy Lawrence has supported Princess Anne, you know, implicitly with her royal duty. But, you know, he's not the one that has formal royal duties. You know, he necessarily wouldn't have a protection officer. It's Princess Anne that would get the funding for the protection officer. So no, you know, the male spouse of a female HRH does not usually get anything or any royal role. A little bit different for the Duke of Edinburgh marrying the Queen, but of course the Duke of Edinburgh never outranked the Queen. The Queen was always the top rank in the relationship. Lots of people really looking forwards to the crown. Yeah, so I just wondered, was there anything else that I really missed? So I'm opening up the questions now, opening up the floor. Anything about the York family that you may have been musing over? Oh, by the way, one thing that I think people have been commenting on in previous videos in the past, something I've had a lot of questions on over, is what will happen to the Dukedom of York once Prince Andrew passes away eventually? Well, it will not be inherited by the girls. Beatrice and Eugenie, they will not have a chance at getting that dukedom. As I said, unfortunately, the situation is not set up so that females inherit the dukedom. It goes back up the line, it reverts back to the crown, and the next person who will be likely to be the Duke of York will actually be Prince Louis, one of the Cambridge children. So Prince Louis is most likely to be the next Duke of York. It's normally the second eldest son that gets the Dukedom of York. Of course, Prince George will eventually be, one would think, the Prince of Wales and obviously the Duke of Cornwall. And it's expected, of course, that once Princess Anne is no longer with us, that Princess Charlotte, as the eldest daughter, will be the Princess Royal. Lady Bingham says, where did you see that documentary? I think it was ITV, although it could have been Channel 4 or Channel 5. I actually really forget. It had adverts, so it wasn't BBC. That doesn't help, does it? It was either Channel 3, Channel 4 or Channel 5. That narrows it down for you, doesn't it? Right. Just having a look down. Lauren says, this baby might be the first baby introducing to us digitally. Perhaps. I mean, there is always a first chance. Princess Eugenie does have social media. Sarah, Duchess of York, embraces social media. So yes, there is the distinct possibility that the baby might. By the way, do you think baby Brooksbank will be a boy or a girl? Do let me know. Right. So someone asked, who are all of the working members of the royal family? And I do have a definitive list. I just typed in to get the exact list. So of course we have the Queen. Now, it was the Duke of Edinburgh up until the point where the Duke of Edinburgh retired. Then, of course, we have Charles and Camilla. Then we have Princess Anne. We have the Duke of York, Andrew. Now, if Andrew would have still have been married to Sarah, she would also have been a working royal. We have the Earl and Countess of Wessex, Edward and Sophie. We have William and Catherine. We did have Harry and Meghan up until the point where they left. The Gloucesters, the Duke and the Duchess of Gloucester. The Kents, the Duke and Duchess of Kent. And that is it. Occasionally, other royals, for example, Princess Alexandra, might be asked to step in or deputise or do something. In fact, Beatrice and Eugenie have both accompanied the Queen on certain engagements or been asked to represent, but it is not on a full-time basis. We are talking about full-time working royals. So no, as a full-time, and you get no funding for just representing the Queen for a little bit. You might get protection literally just for that visit, or you'll obviously get that engagement funded, but you do not get any wider funding. You're not entitled to anything just by representing the Queen on a few occasions. That just doesn't kind of happen. Grace says, I thought the Prince of Wales wanted a more slimmed down royal family. I think he wanted a more slimmed down royal family. I don't think he wanted a decimated royal family. I don't think he wanted a barren royal family. And if you imagine with the Kents and the Gloucesters gone, the Queen no longer with us, it's going to be a completely decimated royal family. And I don't ever think that, Charles would have wanted that. Let's put it that way. No, we've got no due date of baby, and we probably won't likely to have either. Lots of people, saying boy. Ooh, and Laura thinks girl. No, I haven't seen The Duchess yet, apparently. It's about Diana's family and the royal family. Mason says, you think that I would make a wonderful family member. Well, thank you. It's only an accident of birth that I'm not royal. It is. What tiara would I have? I'd have to have one on long-term loan from the... Oh, I don't think I'd want one that someone else had worn. I think I'd have to have one that I designed myself, I think, definitely. Mandeep Singh, thank you so much. You've just donated 5, and I'm not entirely sure what the initials are for the currency. It's an S, and I need my glasses. It's an SGD. Singapore. It's Singapore. You say hi from Singapore. A massive fan of yours. Take care. Thank you so much. I don't think I've received a Singaporean dollar. Is that? Does the D stand for dollar? I don't think I've had a Singaporean dollar before, so thank you so much. Mwah. Do I think the baby will have a regal name or an unusual name? Well, I mean, Beatrice and Eugenie themselves are kind of more of the kind of Victorian era of royal names. I don't know, I think it'll be a traditional name. I don't think it will be necessarily, I don't think we're going to get, Rasputia or something. I don't think we're going to get, something that's not typical. I think we're going to get something traditional, but perhaps more in the vein of the Victorian era. I'm going to predict the Victorian era. Maybe Alice. Maybe Alice if it's a girl, or maybe Philip if it's a boy. Maybe Philip, or I don't know, maybe Albert. Maybe Albert. Albert or Alice, I think, maybe we might see. James Medford says, how are the cats and your partner? All well and fine, and you will find out in the weekly vlog, which is about to premiere tonight, actually. In fact, what time is it? I might be... Ooh, it's actually now. The weekly vlog's going live now. So I need to go. I need to actually go, because I think I'm kind of late. Hang on. Let me see if I can actually stop my chat. Hang on. I think it's literally about to go. Videos. Hang on. Let me just put it back 10 minutes if I can. I'm overstretching it. Quick. I'm going to put it back to 1915. There we go. Done. Right. Have I saved it? Have I done it? I think I've done it. Let me just check. It's like it had a minute to go. Oh no, it is premiering. Right, I'm going to have to go because literally my weekly vlog is premiering. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for the donations. If you've enjoyed it, as always, please give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to share on social media, and also do hit the bell so that you know whenever I upload a new video. And I am just literally going to post you the link to the live chat, and then hopefully you'll be able to see. Hang on, where's it gone? Oh no! Literally, right, I'm going to have to go. So, from me in Shropshire, mwah to you all, and goodbye.